Hello everybody. In this video I'm going to show how to use VBA programming to sort a list or range in your Microsoft Excel environment. Now this video I'm going to show more about how to use the macro recorder to set up the macro and then modify it as needed. So what I'm going to do is use the list that I have in front of me. The list I have in front of me is pulled from a file that is updated daily. The only problem I have is that this file isn't always sorted in the manner I want it sorted in. In this case, I always want this list to be sorted by its list price, going from highest to lowest. And that's what I'm going to show how to do in this video. I'm going to go to my Developers tab and select Macros. Actually, I'm going to go to Record Macro. And I'm going to call this macro Sort List by Price. And I'm going to go on and hit OK. The first thing that I want you to notice is that my header row doesn't have any kind of filter set on it. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is highlight the header row, go to your Data tab, and the first thing you want to do is add the filter. The next thing that you're going to do is create your filter values, or parameters I should say. In this case, my parameter is going to be, I'm going to set to be sort largest to smallest. And now I'm going to remove the filter, just to remove that box. And make sure you do not forget that step, because when it comes to running your macro, you can get an error because the macro is dependent on having that filter on your header row. And I'll explain to you what I mean right now a little bit more detail once I'm actually in the macro. I'm going to go to my Developers tab and hit Stop Recording. I'm going to go to Macros and then hit Edit on Sort List by Price. And the first thing I'm going to do is explain to you what this is doing. I'm going to separate each line of code that does its own separate action. First thing we do is we select range A1 to G1. That was when I highlighted the entire header row. This was when I added the filter. This line of code just adds the rules that you're gonna do. In this case, the first thing, it clears out the fields. Pretty much you can ignore all of this right here with the exception of your sheet. You want to have the name of your sheet. The range is the most important part, which is going to be the value that you're actually, the column you actually want to sort. This is generally going to be always Excel sort on values. The order, this you can change between ascending or descending, but it'll be Excel descending or Excel ascending. Data options is generally going to be Excel sort normal. But all this does right here is sets up the rule that you want it to sort it in descending order. If I was to write exit sub right here, that way this code does not execute, the list will not sort. Because once you actually set up the parameters using VBA programming, you then need to apply it, and that's what this line of code does right here. Although, I mean, it's multiple lines, but this section right here applies the parameters that you've established up here. And then the last code is selection.autofilter. All that does is it takes off the filter that we have on the header row. So notice though, when we add it and when we remove the filter, the code's exactly the same thing. So let me show you what happens when you don't take off the filter. If I was to remove this, I'm going to put a single quote, that way this code is not executed. And if I run this macro, sort list by price, the filter is still on there. Our list price is sorted, but we still have the filter on here. So look what happens when you run the macro again. When you do sort list by price, this time we're going to get an error, object variable or with block variable not set. And all this is telling us in this case is that the auto filter or the filter option isn't available on the workbook because this last line of code removed it. So if you add it, you want to remove it. I'm going to hit stop. And now that it's not on here, this is the way the macro originally started, we'll be able to run the macro sort list by price. And again, we can run it over and over, and we won't run into any issues. But if you as the user or any other user that you have that's using this workbook was to do this, they highlight the header row, hit filter, and then they were to run that macro, you're going to get an error again, because the first line of code is selection.autofilter. I mean, after you select the header row, and so that's actually removing the filter because your user had already added it on. So you just want to be careful with this. There is a workaround for fixing this so that you can check to see if it already exists. I'm not going to cover that in this video. That's going to be a whole different topic. But there is a way that you can write a function to determine if the filter is currently visible or not visible on the screen. But you have to create a function. From what I know, there isn't any kind of built-in function in Excel where you can put, if the auto filter is visible, then do this code. If it's not visible, then do this other code. From what I know, there isn't a built-in function like that. It's one that needs to be built programmatically, so that it's a programmatical. From what I know, that option isn't available in Excel. It's one that you have to build yourself. But I do hope you find this video helpful. This is going to be, again, just a method to programmatically set up. I hope you found this video useful. This now completes it. Thank you for watching.